by the way, which is where I've seen the ads. It's practically the only television where I'd actually see ads these days anymore. But yeah,
I just want to add one more thing about why I defended the gamers, and I did it in two episodes of Factual Feminist. That one of the things that the cultural critics said was that there was, just it was too male centered. There was too much violence. Women, and then when women were getting killed, so it was encouraging domestic violence and violence against women, and women were scantily clad. Well, all of this was overdone because men are killed too. It's true they are violent, but as I said, no one's been able to connect this to violence in the real world. And there's also a lot of violence on television. If you've seen Breaking Bad or
right.
any number of television series, that they're extremely violent. The games are too. So are novels. It's just no one's been able to. They've always tried. They haven't been able to show these direct effects or even indirect. And the other thing is the sexism. Men do like scantily, not all men. Some men wouldn't want this in their games, and game developers should know this. But a lot of men, young men that play the games, they do like pretty women, sexy women, and so the games have them. And what I think is we're in the middle of a kind of panic about male sexuality, and people
Yes.
shame gays or shame trans people for their sexuality. Now they're shaming conventionally heterosexual men. I don't think we should do that either.
I think that starts early. By the way, I think you have school systems that are designed to basically try to uh, demasculinize boys.
Oh, yes. Well, I wrote The War Against Boys. I wrote all
Exactly.
about that.
Right. Right. In fact,
Yeah.
I've got it up on the screen here. I want to make sure that we mention that. I mean, it starts there, and it works. It works its way up.
Well,
And
when people hear about, little boys that are suspended because they, shoot a Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun, or, a 7-year-old it played cops and robbers and so forth, or even just eliminating high-spirited competitive games or not keeping score, all of this takes a higher toll on little boys. So I do see, I think I did see the attack on the gamers as part of an overall attack on men. It's sort of the one group you can attack with impunity, and then you have this empowered, women's lobby. So we need, there was a reason that we had a women's lobby, as we said, with the second wave of feminism, good things it did. We had to we had to make changes. But it's this, it's a cliche, but the pendulum went too far. We have to come back and I think what we now need is equalism. We didn't need male chauvinism. I didn't like that, and I still don't, but I don't like female chauvinism.
yeah,
And I certainly don't like mean-spiritedness towards men or boys.
well, I think what you have to reach for is the fact that there are differences between the genders, but that doesn't mean that there should be differences in opportunities between the
Exactly.
genders. And so you can't just it's part of this thing where you have well, you can't buy that toy for a boy because it reinforces gender roles, or you can't buy this toy for a girl because it reinforces gender roles. And I mean, I even catch myself doing that sometimes. I have two granddaughters, and I joke around with my wife a little bit, saying, "Well, I'm gonna go get him a truck because I don't have a grandson, so I'm gonna go get him a truck." And she's going, "Well, no, they're not gonna play with the truck." I said, "I'm not gonna reinforce gender roles, doggone it." And my wife just kind of shoots me the look
Rolls
that,
of eyes.
yeah, no, neither of my granddaughters are going to play with a Tonka truck. I mean, I know that. I know better than that. But I mean, so, but the thing is you respect the complementary. What do you call it?
Yes, the complementarity of the sexes.
Complementarity. You're right, of
And
the sexes.
knowing there are going to be some kids that defy the stereotypes, and then you want to work for, make them, allow them to flourish. And I want a society where people are tolerant and kind to each other. But I don't see this kindness and tolerance in
No,
in the gender activists.
no. In fact, it's reinforcing intolerance.
It's an authoritarian movement.
Exactly. It is an authoritarian movement that reinforces intolerance, and what you're doing is you're radicalizing the entire thing, which is guaranteed to increase conflict and to increase resentments. And that's second wave feminism had the right idea. Third wave feminism is basically promoting a totalitarian regime based on the emotions of the people who happen to be in charge at the time, and that's always dangerous, always dangerous. Uh,
Well, it's also dangerous to have groups, and we have them on most campuses, that have a lot of moral fervor and misinformation.
yeah.
I mean, history is one long lesson in the danger of combining that kind of moral fervor with misinformation. You
Oh,
get
yeah.
fanaticism.
Well, you get moral
And
panics.
they go around, they think 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 young women is being raped at Berkeley or at Harvard or, these campuses. It's not true. They're not the equivalent of a rape camp in a war-torn country in Eastern Europe, in Bosnia or the Congo, but they act as though it is. And so it makes the young women nervous and angry and resentful and frightened and a little fanatical.
Very fanatical, and it creates the moral panics that you see, which drive the impulses that you saw with Rolling Stone covering this UVA story, is just to leap on any particular anecdote that you think is going to make your case that all the data is debunking. And Glenn Reynolds, by the way, had a good article today,
I
or
saw that. It was great.
good column
There's
today that you
also
sent
a
today.
must-read piece in Slate magazine by Emily Yoffe. Just
Yes.
a brilliant, like very, very careful, deeply researched piece. And she debunks the phony statistics, the victimology, and the complete cruelty that's happening right now to young men on the campus who find themselves in these kangaroo courts and thrown out of school in freshman year or something for when they, for these crimes that they did not commit.
With no due process. And this is the problem when you have college campuses taking over roles that belong in the courts. It's one thing.
Absolutely.
It's one thing to. I mean, they have to control behavior on the campus. Nobody's denying that. But when you're getting into accusations of criminality, which is what these are, that is something that needs to be handled by the courts and not by school administrators. And what you get out of this is exactly the reason why it belongs in the courts, because the courts can protect the due process rights of